John, I suppose the biggest shock of the week was Manchester City losing at home to Lyon, and from what I saw, deservedly losing, because Lyon looked decent, but also City at the back were very, very poor.
Yeah. Well, they got at them, Eamon. Lyon. I thought it would be a walkover like most people for Manchester City. But Lyon were very, very good. Much better than I thought they would be. And City were a lot poorer than you would expect them to be. But they were good. They even when they went in front, they didn't sit back. They went for another one. They hit the upright in the second half. I was very, very impressed with them. When they defended, it wasn't desperation stuff. They were well organised. But one thing about them, when they got the ball, they weren't sitting back. No, they were very, very impressive. And a big shock for City, of course.
Yeah, now this guy who scored the second goal for Lyon, Fekir, Liverpool almost signed him. He also was he was the person who played the through ball from Memphis, hit the one.
Yes.
He was clean through, hit the post.
Oh, yeah.
So I think City may be back for him. He wanted to go, but Lyon are difficult. They are a selling club, but they always ask, like Spurs,
high prices. Yeah,
a bit like Spurs. Their chairman must have gone to the Daniel Levy school of bargaining. The point about City though was the goals. Fernandinho was at fault for two of them, giving the ball away. Silva, was at fault as well. David Silva rarely makes mistakes, but Guardiola was sitting in the stand because he's serving out a touchline ban. But they had their new the one guy that Didi identified on Monday when we were talking about City. He said Laporte might be the answer. This is the new central defender they brought in last year, but he actually was at fault, badly at fault. They looked like a mess, John, at the back. They don't know how to defend, and they don't seem to care about defending.
Well, that was a bad night for them, Eamon. There's no doubt about that. I mean, in most of the other matches, obviously Guardiola pursues his policy, but you have to say, like they were only second in goals against last season for Manchester United. Eamon, I'm not saying it's perfect by any means, but it was a bad night for them. There's no doubt, and. They when they're put under pressure, obviously they don't defend as well as they should defend. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. And this team took advantage of them last night.
Yeah, all it brings into question, I'd be suggesting and have been suggesting all the time, is the balance, if you like, because when we see them in the Premier League, in most of their games they're camped in the opposition territory, and it's like forwards against defence. And because teams are afraid of them. Now the big teams in the league, like Liverpool for example, Chelsea perhaps, Manchester United, won't be afraid of them. So this Achilles heel they have could cost them. And of course, and this was what Didi's tipped them to win the Champions League. This is the problem when you go against the big sides in Europe. They won't be afraid.
Well, Lyon weren't considered a big side, Eamon, by any means, and it was a bad night for them as well. If you look at even Spurs the other night, Spurs lost 2 goals, Liverpool lost 2 goals. But it's overall what you do, and in what Manchester City did last. Of course, they were weak at the back last year, but they conceded 2 goals. Only one team conceded less goals in, which was Manchester United. That's the way they are, Eamon. Of course there should be more emphasis on it, but it's winning matches is the most important. Whatever way you do it, and Manchester City won more matches last season than anybody else. First team to get over 100 points. Didn't do very well in the Champions League. So you have to. I'm like you. I don't agree with the lack of attention to defending.
Right.
But that's what they are.
This is the statistical argument that people bring up. For example, they say, well, you can't accuse Guardiola of ignoring defence, because at Barcelona and subsequently at Bayern Munich, his teams conceded less goals in their league than anyone else. My point to that is, well, of course you'll concede less goals if you're by far the best team in the league, because you're winning every week. The opposition generally aren't getting to put much pressure on your defence. What I question is the philosophy that appears to be the guiding force in Guardiola's thing as a coach. And my question would be this. Yeah. Okay, what's to stop you attacking the way they do, playing the football they play, and at the same time having really top-class defenders? They're not mutually exclusive.
Well, no, but it's a bit. I'll tell you, you're mixing it up a little bit, in my opinion. If he does what he does and wins matches the way he's won it and concedes less goals than anybody else, that's the big statistic, Eamon. How he does it can be questionable, but the fact is he's done it. You know, at Barcelona, you say, well, he was the better team against all the other teams. Well, he had to make them the best team.
Mm.
They didn't suddenly become the best team. No, you have to make them the best team to be able to do what they do and not be put under pressure to concede the goals that the other teams are conceding. That's all part of the game. There's nothing perfect in football then. There's not any one way. Everybody does it differently. You know,
let's go to Bayern Munich then. Bayern Munich were the best team in Germany when he took over. In fact, when he took over, they just won the league and the cup. He didn't improve their defence. He disimproved their defence. He took Philip Lahm out of it and put him in midfield, for example. What I'm saying is there seems to be, I think, a kink in his character.
No, that's not fair, Eamon. We don't know his character. We can only go what we see. I mean, there's a kink in every manager, Eamon. Every manager. I mean, if you look at Mourinho's character, for example, I mean, there's no comparison. And then all of them, I mean, all managers, all people, all of us have kinks. But when it comes to football, I mean, you have to admire what he did with the way that they played. When you go back to the old days with Graham Turner and Wilkinson and all these guys, I mean, whether it was Pomo and knocking the ball up the pitch. I mean, when City are playing well, they're beautiful to watch. I mean, of course they have faults, but they're beautiful to watch and effective. They scored more goals than last year. They conceded less goals than anybody else apart from Manchester United. This is all part of it, but there's nothing perfect in it, and there's no one way of doing it.
Right. I'll leave it there.
It's a fact, Eamon. It's a fact. What do you win? You know,
well,
what do you win?
What they're going to win in the Champions League is nothing, because they don't have a defence. Now,
well, wait and see. Wait and see. Now, I keep going back to Liverpool. What about Liverpool's defence last year?
Well, I'm going to ask you about Liverpool. I actually,
and this year,
you're absolutely right to point to Liverpool's defence last year and the fact that they didn't have a goalkeeper. I think by general agreement. Didn't have a defence. It stopped them from winning the Champions League.
Exactly. I mean, it wasn't just the defence last year; it was the goalkeeper.
Yeah, well, he's the defence. Now, anyway, I say now that they will not win the Champions League, despite having invested way over €1 billion. They will not, actually pounds sterling that it should be. Despite all of that, they won't win the Champions League unless he pays attention to his defence. Let's move on to.
Well, I say let's wait and see. And I'm not saying they're going to win it. That they're with a good chance to win, the same as everybody else. So we'll keep this conversation on record.
We will, yeah.
Till the end of the season.
Yeah, Andrew is nodding and smiling. I think he's being an Arsenal fanatic. He probably agrees with you. Now.